The Foundations Course 1 talk today is entitled Repairing Wrongdoing. After we've handled the obstacles of a Christian, the things that we face as Christians that prevent us from living a good Christian life, we realize that the sure thing about Christian life is failure. That's why we have this presentation that centers on how we could recover from our failures, repairing wrongdoing. Now, the problem really is wrongdoing. Now, if you understand the word sin, which I think comes to our mind whenever we talk about wrongdoing, we think about sin. Now, in scriptures, the word sin is something broader. It actually means missing the mark. So we could understand the word sin as referring to everything that's not according to God's will. So, wrongdoing becomes a kind of sin. So, sin is the bigger word. And what is wrongdoing? Well, it refers to actions and attitudes that we have that are not according to God's will. So it's more personal. It affects the human being. It affects us. It's not an abstract idea. It's about an attitude that we might have that could lead to an action that's not according to God's will. And so wrongdoing is a kind of sin. Another example of a kind of sin is tendencies. I could be a person who has a tendency to lie. It's a tendency. It's a kind of sin. But wrongdoing is more specific because wrongdoing is concrete enough that it could actually disrupt relationships. Even a wrong attitude could be the start of something that could lead to wrong actions that destroys relationships. So wrongdoing, more specifically, is something that involves the disruption of relationships, either with God or with others. Now, what's the solution? Well, the solution to wrongdoing is for us to repent and to get reconciled with those we have a broken relationship with. Now, there are 4 steps that we need to take in order to repair wrongdoing. The first set of steps involve what we do for ourselves. The first step is to admit the wrongdoing. Be honest. Call a spade a spade. The tendency for most people today is when they do something wrong or if they have a wrong attitude, they blame another person or they blame the situation. Example, I'm having a lot of pressure in terms of my work in the office. So what do? I cheat on my work and try to make it appear that I'm doing well. Now, I have to recognize first that that action can only change if I actually admit, hey, that's not good. I'm being dishonest. I have to go to my boss and tell him what happened. But it begins with an honest assessment of your attitudes and your actions that you believe was not according to God's plan or was clearly wrong. The first step is to admit to the wrong that you did. Second, you then also would have to say that this wrongdoing is something that you do not want to do again. to have sorrow for what you did. Now, there is a big difference between just feeling bad and wretched about yourself without changing. Example, I already admitted that I was dishonest, but I could just beat myself up and say, I'm so dishonest, I'm so dishonest, I'm so dishonest. And still do the same dishonest act the next time. Feeling bad is not the key. The key is the recognition that something is bad. And you say to yourself, I will not do this again. This is something I want to avoid. The next set of steps are mainly directed towards God and others, what we do for God and others. And these are important steps because they are the steps that would help us heal our relationship with God and with others. Step 3, ask forgiveness, confess the wrongdoing. The hard part is actually telling somebody that you did something wrong. And I suggest a formula, a clear statement of what you did. Like my example of cheating on my work and admitting to my boss that I cheated. I have to be very specific. I have to go to my boss and say something like this. Boss, I'd like to talk to you. I'd like to ask forgiveness for cheating in the work. I did not do this work. I only copied it from somebody else and I claimed it as mine, and that is wrong. It's cheating. Please forgive me for this action. Now, it's very clear. You are confessing a wrongdoing and you are admitting to it, and then you're asking for forgiveness. The formula in terms of a response would be also something very clear. Your boss should be able to then tell you, Raoul, I forgive you for your dishonest action. Please don't do it again. I think you have a basic idea of what's happening here. In many of our relationships with people, you have to have a concrete action or something that you did wrong so that you can actually point to a clear action. Like a bad thought is something you cannot ask forgiveness for. And you don't have to because it's just a temptation. Like you see this person or a brother or sister in community that you don't like and you just feel irritated inside. You don't have to ask forgiveness for a bad thought. You did nothing wrong yet. Now, you could possibly do something wrong, but it's not something that you need to ask forgiveness for. Temptations. You don't ask forgiveness from God for temptations. You ask the Lord for help during temptations. But the point is, when those temptations lead you to actual sin, that's the time when you could actually pinpoint on a particular action and say, going to confession actually means, for us Catholics, we go to confession and we actually specify the particular action that we did that was wrong. Of course, we could also confess temptations, but they are different. You are not admitting to a particular wrongdoing. Asking forgiveness means confessing a particular wrongdoing and saying that you will not do that again and that you would like to restore your relationship with the person that you wronged. Last but not the least, when we do recognize something that's wrong, we have to make up for the wrongdoing. Restitution is an important action. Restitution means if we stole some money from somebody, the right approach to correct the wrong is to pay it back. You might not have enough money to pay, but the effort of actually telling people, I did something wrong, I want to pay back. Can I pay it back this way? And restitution is the act of giving back what you stole. It's restoring the wrongdoing and the effects that it has, the effects that it has, the effect it has on people. And we need to see that. We need to see that, because unless we see that, we won't be able to repair the wrong that we've done. Penance is also another thing that we do. Penance is doing action that would sort of reconcile and change your heart towards the good. A good confession often leads to a priest giving you good penance. Again, let me just give you an example. One time I confessed to speaking badly and in a bad tone against my sister. And you know what the priest told me for penance? Why don't you read the letter to James? Read the part about taming the tongue. Again, that's penance. I had to read it and read on what it means to understand that my tongue can actually lead me to sin. Penance is a way of repairing wrongdoing. So, in this presentation, I hope that you can grow in your understanding of what it means to restore your relationship with people and restore your relationship with God. There is hope for us when we fail, because in the end, we don't have to be sorrowful in a wrong way. We need to be sorrowful in a right way by working hard to repair the broken relationships that that's resulted because of our wrongdoing. But there is always hope. Even if we break relationships, there is an opportunity for us to repair wrongdoing.